The name of the show is The Way to Go. My name is Alan Bendich. I'm going to be your host. Tonight we have a wonderful actor, someone who I had the pleasure of working with, as our guest, Mr. Sean A. Kaufman.
Hey, Alan.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. So nice to be here.
So Sean, where are you from originally?
Yeah, I was born in Brooklyn and raised in Staten Island.
Wow. Staten Island. That's interesting. So why did your parents move from Brooklyn to Staten Island?
I think it was a few things. I think I might say it was to be in a quieter neighborhood, so that kind of thing. But ultimately, it was there. I've heard the stories that there were flying cockroaches in one of the bedrooms in their apartment, and that's how they knew. Oh, he's right. They knew it was time to go. Not that any other place anywhere else wouldn't necessarily have that, but I think that was the straw that broke the proverbial camel's back.
I don't know many people from Staten Island. That's why I was. That's great. So, what was it like growing up in Staten Island? I'm from the Bronx. So the Bronx is like one extreme to Staten Island's other. It's like, wow.
Totally different settings, and now that I'm a little bit older, I've experienced other parts of the city, but it was like a mixture between suburban and urban, because I went to college in New Hampshire where it's just open roads.
What school?
I went to Dartmouth.
Oh, that's a wonderful school.
Oh, yeah. It is.
Great school.
Thank you. But
congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So much more urban compared to that, but then way less urban when you compare it to the Bronx. Yeah. So it's kind of like right in the middle.
I have an interesting Dartmouth story, actually. When I was in high school, we had one of our graduates who had, and I'm talking about 1972. Okay? We had a guy that came up. He had been a graduate from my high school, and he was recruiting people who he thought would be good for Dartmouth.
Yeah,
and he was interviewing me, and he was saying, I think you'd be great for Dartmouth. He said, but the one thing I do is I sell weed, and this actually happened. This is a conversation that happened, and if you come up, you could have a job with me. So I decided not to pursue it. But maybe looking back, maybe it would have been a good idea, especially to become an actor as good as you.
Going to Dartmouth or selling weed? Or?
Both.
Okay. That school will teach you a lot of things, but no, I never learned how to deal any.
Well, you didn't have to.
Illicit.
And you studied acting?
I was able to pick up a minor in theater.
Right.
Last minute. I always wanted to study acting when I was there, but my main focus at the time was biology. My whole life, I wanted to be a doctor, be a doctor, be a doctor. I got to college. I was separated from my pets. Yeah. I'm a big animal lover.
Yes.
And I just, anytime I saw a dog on campus, and there were, because some of the fraternities were allowed to have dogs or pets, I noticed in myself and my friends noticed how insanely I would light up over a dog.
Wow.
To the point where they had to distract me if they saw a dog coming and they wanted to maintain my attention. They would find a way to get me not to see it, but I always knew because I can always sniff out a dog. But I decided, okay, I'll be a vet. So nothing else changed as far as the pre-med track. It was just take your biology, your chemistry, your physics, and then the other, I would say, basic requirements for med or vet schools. And I graduated with a biology major, but by the time I hit the early to middle of senior year, I had enough of those credits and I fulfilled my major. So I had electives. I just dove right into theater. I took, there were 3 levels of acting. I took those. I took acting for musical theater. I took the kind of class where you, what do they call it? Dice theater that you put together, together as a group. It's escaping me. Devised theater.
Okay.
So it was movement based.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So it came together as an official minor, and then I got training afterwards.
What's interesting, I was pre-med also. I went to SUNY Binghamton. My brother's a doctor.
Oh, Binghamton, yeah.
And I got a full Regent scholarship and stuff like that. And I was full-blown bio major as well. And I know, and I got to organic, and I just said,
Oh,
good. And then somehow I switched over to accounting. But I love biology. I love genetics. I mean,
Yeah.
and it's in my blood. I have like uncles who worked at Sloan Kettering, all this stuff.
Yeah.
But so how did you? So you took all these courses, and what happened after you graduated?
So it really happened. It all centered around my senior year. I was doing the summer going into the senior year. I stayed on campus. I was doing biology research in a lab.
Interesting. That's cool.
And so it was essentially a 9-to-5 lab job. Very interesting, but then after 5 o'clock, I had nothing to do. But I had another friend on campus who had written a play, and it was accepted into and won a playwriting contest, a little 2-person play, rom-com, and she asked me to audition. And not because we're friends, there were other auditioners, but I was cast. So the theater department professors would ask me, like, where have you been the past 3 years?
Right.
Why aren't you doing this? It's so fun to work with you. You're so talented.
Right.
And of course, I thought, they'll tell anyone that because it's a small department. They
Right.
want
More
to
bodies.
bring people
Right.
in. They need warm bodies in the room.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. But I had such a fun time doing that. I mean, I was also a high school theater kid.
Right.
But you think that the transition from high school to college, focus on academic priorities, but I was able to always maintain my creative outlet doing improv comedy my 4 years there in a group called the Dog Day Players.
Cool.
Do long form improv. But it was really that summer going into my senior year that it was like something started to stir and like wake up in me. And I made it a bucket list item. Before I graduated, I wanted to be in one of the main stage plays. So I didn't have as much time in the fall, but for the winter, and we were on a quarter system, so there was fall, winter, spring. In the winter, I auditioned for the main stage play. And it's called The Liar, based on it's the English version of it. It's based on a Pierre Corneille play by the same name, but in French. And I was cast. And it was during that play that I had sort of electrifying stage moment where I just knew this is it. This is what I want.
Right.
When you feel, and you've acted as well. You're an actor.
But I'm only a screen actor.
Oh, you don't do.
I don't. I actually have stage fright. I really do, and I have that from being a pianist. I did recitals when I was younger.
Yeah.
And then one day I just did a recital and I looked up and it was like, that was it.
Gotcha.
I love the camera. The camera I love, but audience, I've always, my knees start shaking. Actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. It's totally a human thing, But we just worked so well together, our cast and our director and the crew, and just had such it really felt like, and it's so trite to say, but like I really felt electricity or something like trickle up my back, and you can feel, and this is the thing that I love about stage acting, is that when you can feel the audience, lean in with you, that was the thing that told me that this is it. This is what I need to do. And then that led to some conversations with people that worked on the play with me, who had been hired by the college for other artistic aspects of the play, and I took their advice seriously, and I broke it to my parents.
How did they take it?
Oy. No,
Nice.
they really took it pretty tough in the beginning.
Right.
So for the rest of that school year, they kept, you sure you want to do this? You sure?
Dartmouth, my
Yeah,
son.
I was
the doctor.
I was going to be
my son, the doctor.
I was going to be my son the doctor, especially because my grandfather was a doctor and all that.
And you're so smart. How could you become an actor? An actor.
If there's anyone that can play to that, like the tug on those heartstrings, it's those parents of yours.
There's no question.
Yeah, they know how to guilt trip me like no one else. But then that summer, they came and saw me in a play.
Right.
It was a summer stock production of Singing in the Rain. And it's not that I had a big role in that or anything, but I was in all of the plays at the New London Barn Playhouse that summer. And and they were like, oh, he's so great. So of course they see me on a stage and they're like, okay, it's going to be all right. And then when I moved home, I had 2 weeks or so, and then I was back in another theater in Vermont at Northern Stage doing 12 Angry Men. So I think they saw that immediately I had a little bit of traction, and they had a sigh of relief. And then started auditioning.
So how did you make well, first of all, do you still do stage work?
Yeah, I haven't done a play in a year, almost to the day, but yeah, I definitely love to stay on stage.
So when did you transition, if it is a transition, from stage to film or to video?
It was right after I finished my acting training program. So when the year after I graduated college, I enrolled at the Maggie Flanagan Studio in New York City. So that's a full-time acting training program. I learned the Meisner technique, and then movement technique, vocal technique, the whole kit and caboodle. I have some great teachers. And graduated and in August of 16 from there, and at the end of the year I had my first audition for an independent film, and it led to my first role.
And what was your first role?
So the film is Maturing Youth.
Oh, that was your first role?
Yeah.
Holy smoke. Okay, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Interesting. So
I'm very blessed.
Oh, that's awesome. That is unbelievable. Wow.
Yeah. I couldn't believe it myself.
No, and you wound up getting the lead, right?
So yeah, I was cast as the lead role. This guy, Roger, he's sort of a lost soul, so to speak. A guy that he's kind of lazy, doesn't have a job, survives off of unemployment and checks from his mother.
Which is almost the opposite of you. I mean, because
I hope so.
So how did you find your character?
How did I find? There were days when I had the script in my hands and I thought, how am I going to find him? That's exactly how I would phrase it. Like, how am I going to find Roger? Because he's not part of who I am from day to day. He's people that I experience, for the most part. And but of course, when I'm toying with a role, I'm reconciling. Okay, what if there's a Venn diagram between Sean A. Kaufman and then character.
Where do they meet?
Where do they meet? And who has to give and who has to take a little bit. So for working on that role, it was a lot of rehearsals with the other actors. Actually, we had which is unusual for film, as you know.
It's a luxury. To have time to actually get the group together.
Exactly, which was great because we all bonded. We're all friendly and keep in touch. I've worked together with some of them since then. It's been great, but doing that and then just actor homework, going out and observing in the real world people that I know that I might be friends with, or that I might not be friends with. Really seeing what I could draw on to capture what I was trying to for him.
Well, I know you brought a little clip from that wonderful show. Maybe we could share it with our audience and then talk a little bit more about it afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I'd like to share this wonderful clip of Maturing Youth, starring Mr. Sean A. Kaufman.
I'm not ready to be a father. I mean, look at me. Honestly, take a real good look. Do I look anywhere man enough to be a father? I have nothing.
You have nothing? Selfish, self-centered son of a bitch, you have everything! I've been homeless with your son for a year!
So I can't think about my happiness here? Where's my say?
He's your son!
Things have been going great for me since you left. Don't you understand that? This isn't fair.
He's your son!
Can't you bring him back to your mama in Oklahoma? Both of you live there. Why did you bring him back?
He's your son! Either kick us out in the snow right now, or step up for once in your life and be something.
I don't even know where to start, Sadie. I mean, honest to God, I didn't plan for this. I don't have to explain anything to you, man. Whoever the hell you are, mister. I like my life the way it is. I've got no problems to worry about, no bills to pay, no people to see who I don't want to see, no job, no commitments, no worries,
no responsibility, total immature bliss. Is that what you mean?
So what if I do? At the end of the day, it's still bliss. To me, there's no difference between immaturity and maturity.
Roger, I come as your friend. Inside my bag, I've got something else besides medical tools, lollipops for kids.
What is it?
Wow. Awesome, man. That was fantastic.
Thank you so much.
And you look, you look like a totally different person now. It's amazing how you did find the character.
Thank you.
So how was it received by audiences?
People walk away like hating Roger.
Right.
But I don't want to give too much away, but title-wise, like maturing youth. So like I'll put it that way, and they say, oh, but it was so great how, he did X, Y, and Z, and as far as character work goes, so I'll blow it a little bit here. Like he has a complete arc. So it was great to do that and be able to share that.
I won't share too much about it.
Yeah. But as far as what they're saying, they love. There's the child in it,
right.
Roger Jr. or Junior for short. They love watching that interaction between the two children, essentially.
I know you don't like to ring your own bell or toot your own horn, but
Me, an actor?
but you won Best Actor in at a film festival, right?
I did. So
what was that like?
It's hard to describe because I wasn't ever expecting it, especially it being my first film,
Right.
First lead role. It was a lot of firsts all at once,
Right.
so it was kind of overwhelming, and it was like a whirlwind. All of a sudden, I'm a nobody,
Right.
and then all of a sudden it's going into all these film festivals. We're in New York, New Jersey, South Carolina, LA, and then boom, the first one in LA at Olympus Film Festival. Walked away with Best Actor.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That means a lot to me.
It must have been a wonderful feeling.
Yeah.
And I'm sure your parents were proud.
Yeah.
That
was validation. It was.
That's it. It's validation.
Yeah.
And so, what other films have you done?
So beyond that, I've worked on short indie things with friends of mine.
Right. What type of shorts?
Little comedic ones.
Yeah.
Nothing that went out to festivals or anything, but just like whatever they're working on to build their acting reels, things like that. And then a little thing called Dwellers, The Curse of Pastor Stokes.
I think maybe we'll talk about that a little bit further in the next episode.
Sure, yeah, we'll put a pin on it.
But Dwellers was another movie that you were the lead in. So it's amazing. You go, from like a beginning film actor, getting two leads in that will be seen by a significant amount of people and industry people.
Yeah.
I mean, you're already leaving your mark. It's great. I mean, but when you start on top.
I know. Well, where's there to go? It's scary, when I think of it that way. But I just want to keep, as long as I'm acting and working on projects that are high quality. I can go. Like I said, I haven't done a play in a year.
Right.
But I would rather, not just do a play that's like in a 10 by 10 black box with like no, I would rather have something that's like really nice that I can be really proud to share with my audience.
It's funny. I worked on a show called The Stay-at-Home Dad, which was on Comedy Central. It was like these little vignettes that they had at 3 o'clock in the morning, and they put it together and they made a film festival, and it was at the New Hampshire Film Festival. Actually, really, and which was interesting, and it was the first time in 22 years that I actually saw my face up on a screen, because after I left Hollywood, I stopped acting for a while.
Wow.
But the person who put that together was a stage actor, and then he started doing a lot of film, and then I guess in his, I won't say how old, but over 40, he got his Broadway debut.
Wow.
You know, and my wife and I, and this was last year, we actually saw him on Broadway. And it didn't make it far, you know, it went to previews and a little bit after previews.
Still.
But he was a Broadway star.
That's
and he actually played, like, he was one of the stars of Broadway, of that show. So is that a dream of yours?
It is, yeah.
I mean, it was a rush just to see my friend up there, and then going backstage and meeting the cast and seeing everything backstage.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, I mean, you'll make it. I mean, you'll probably go back eventually, you know, to the stage. Or,
oh, yeah, I hope. I mean, if someone were to offer me a play tomorrow, I would jump in, you know?
So what's it like? Because I know what it's like for me. What's it like when you audition and you get the part? You know what I mean? And when there's like 100 people, or 50 people.
Are you a competitive person?
Yes.
Oh, then you know. It's that, like, I win. But more than that, it's like I get to do what I want.
I know.
You know, like I get
I'm
to
always
collaborate.
shocked, but sometimes I'm shocked when I get it. I have to, because I'll look around and people are either younger or handsomer or taller or thinner or whatever, you know. And and then all of a sudden I get the call and it's like, holy smoke.
It's like out of everyone.
Right.
It's, I don't know, sometimes I get a feeling about it. And like I said, I've been kind of selective about, like, at least the level of quality.
Right.
But I'm also, and I shouldn't be this selective at this point because, like, as you've pointed out, I'm just starting, really.
Right. I think you should always be selective.
That's the thing. If you carefully select what you audition for, you have a way better chance of getting it, I think.
And also, you're not going to do something that's evidently garbage. Or there's no such thing as garbage, but you're not going to do something that's below the level of what you could offer.
Right, right. And I think between that and having a sense of, like, what character you can or can't play.
Right.
Like, there are some people who say, like, oh, every actor can play, you know, a good actor can play any character.
Right.
That's true, but then you have to be realistic about how you're perceived for
No, there's no
casting.
question. I mean, there's the sweet spot, you know, like where you could,
Right.
I mean, it's good to stretch, but you could stretch within that sweet spot.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah, that's it.
So, like, for instance, you know, with the clip we just saw, Roger, when I read the casting breakdown for him, I thought, well, that's not me. But it would be really fun, and I think I can do it. So I think it's exactly what you said, that sweet spot.
But I'll tell you, when I look at that character on the screen and I see you in person, it's two different people. Even when we worked on Dwellers, you look like, when I was working with you, you were not who I'm looking at right now. I mean, you were in character at that point. You know, it's amazing. You know, and maybe it's a relaxation that you have now, or the fact that that person was someone else because you were playing that person. But it's interesting. Yeah. It's interesting when I meet actors when they're not acting. It's fun, you know. And there's less of a stress. Like here, it's just a conversation between two people, whereas in a situation when we were acting together, we both had scripts.
Right. You have scripts. You have responsibility.
Right. There's camera people that are really. I mean, like you have Spike, right? And you got Deshaun, and it's like, you know, and they want it perfect, and you know, and you want to be perfect.
Exactly. Right. Everyone wants the same thing. Right. You know.
So there's a little, you know, but the thing is, you can't let it get to you.
Right.
But you have to just let it flow naturally, and it's interesting. It is that tightrope sometimes.
Yeah, because especially depending on the emotional demand of the role, there could be a lot of external pressure on you. Right. It could literally be a thing with the sun setting and you're losing light.
You could have like a cold or something like that, or it could be cold, or it could be physically cold, but you don't feel it.
Right.
Do you ever experience that? Like when you're on the set and the adrenaline is pumping, it could be freezing, it could be hot, but you don't feel it.
Oh yeah, because you're worried about so many other things that those like external stimuli just kind of disappear.
Yeah, and I like that. That's the thing that keeps me acting, is that the acting high, basically. It is. It's a rush that. There's nothing else. There's nothing like it.
I agree completely.
It's the best. It's the best. I think it's the best feeling in the world. You know, and I've had kids, and you know, I've been married, and all this stuff.
Right,
but
that's why people do
the
it.
thing. That's the thing. There's no once you've tasted it, it's very difficult to get that taste out of you. I mean, I stopped acting for 22 years, and then I came back because my buddy, the one who was on Broadway, said, "You want to be in this project?" And then I've been acting ever since.
Wow.
So it's.
But that's why we have artists, I think, because, you know, at least in our culture here in the United States, we don't put as much value into the arts as other countries do.
That's true.
And artists don't make money here unless they have a side job or they make it. Why else do it other than for the high?
Well, in this town, I'll throw a little, I'll give them the props. They do have, they have the PACE program, which is like a 4-year program of theater arts, performing arts, and they have that in the high school. So, I mean, some places have the money, the funding to do these things.
Yeah.
But, the way schools and education is funded in the United States, we have a long way to go.
Yeah.
It's a shame. It's amazing that the priorities are so screwed up. That teachers don't make enough money. All this stuff.
Yeah, and then we bemoan how
So do you have any films coming up? Anything new?
Well, there is nothing new.
No, meaning we have The Dwellers, but that's going to be premiering next week. But depending on when you see this episode, it might be like last month. But
nothing else that's coming down the pike.
Right.
Just right now, I'm just sharpening my actor tools in improv class.
Are you still going to classes at all, or is this something? Yeah.
Yeah. So Upright Citizens Brigade, taking their classes for improv.
Do you think you're going to continue taking classes for the rest of your life, or not?
I think so. I think it's important to constantly have a trained eye, keep an eye on you.
Right.
And from time to time, you don't have to perpetually be in class, but
the best class I ever had was this cold reading class that I did in Hollywood, and it was basically they had like all the girls on one side, all the guys on another, and then the teacher would pick one of each, and you'd go right in the center, and he would just give you something. You look at it for 5 minutes and do the scene. And he would not let you finish the scene until it looked like you were totally connected. And it was it was so cool. We had people we had a guy named Ben Murphy who was in 2 different network television shows. He was in our class. We had a woman who was a stripper on Sunset Boulevard who was, but like in this famous place. I forgot the name of the stripper joint. But and we had people from soap operas. And everyone did it for that reason. It's just to stay on top of it, just to be as sharp. And in Hollywood, the most important thing was to do cold reading for so you get the part. Once you get the part, if you're SAG, then they got to use you. So it's amazing when the shows go well, they go like that.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, there's just one thing left to say. That's a wrap. Good night, folks.